Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
What up, visionaries? Welcome to Velen's Chosen. We are a podcast geared to buff the Hearthstone games of all our listeners. We exist to help you stay competitive and not break the bank. So we talk gameplay, deck constructions, arena skills, somewhat of the decks that the pros might be playing, and we try to help you accomplish your specific Hearthstone goals. This week we're going to be talking about 2 different discount decks yet again, so we're doubling up. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we saw over DreamHack, and then kind of how we're going into the coming tournaments that are coming up, and what decks we think we're going to see there. So joining me, I am RobMay. I'm joining me today. We have our Canadian resident, Evemartyn. What's up, Eve?
Not much. I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone this week. It's really exciting.
Very cool.
I've heard of that game. Is it fun? Are you enjoying it? Is it?
They say it's free to play.
It's weird to me because I took such a long break when everything was so stale and I wasn't playing for such a long time that playing Hearthstone like every single day is kind of new. It's kind of exciting.
It's what the cool kids do, I hear.
And then
play every single day.
Yeah. Then we have our Oklahoma resident, Andrew Brown.
Sup? Hey, we need to add to our description at the beginning that another thing that we like to do on this show is to have a little bit of fun, you know?
We should do that.
Like, we're not like, let's report everything and like be all here's... Well, actually, you do well with the statistics and stuff like that, but...
Andrew
like
just said doo-doo.
Oh!
That's how we have fun.
It's
all right, check the box. Check the box. We got nothing left to say. Drop the mic.
That's all the fun for today. Now we're going to an Excel spreadsheet with every card that you can get off of
Jeweled Scarab.
Why can't I think of a card that creates a Jeweled Scarab? There you go. Golly. I was thinking the Priest Legendary that makes a legendary. Paletris. Golly.
All right.
That's a good one too.
You better confess, suckle. All right, so today, guys, wow, we have one of the most exciting tavern brawls that wasn't actually painful to play.
How about that, huh?
So why don't we,
mind-breaking.
You know, let's switch it up. Let's talk about Patreon at the top of the show today. Because Eve got one of the most exciting emails we've gotten this week, right? And it's just an alert email from Patreon.
We have our very first $50 Patreon.
This is our one of 5 patrons. The Exodar VIP status.
The VIP of the VIP.
So
that just made my whole week when I saw that. I was just like, what?
Okay, so this is hilarious, Eve. So I was in Discord last night with this donor. Shout out to Jamie. Basically, Jamie and I were sitting there talking a little bit of Overwatch after he was making fun of me and Andres for the Omnic Lab that we just finished recording, because I won't spoil it, but Andres said like some really weird things like in that show that just made me laugh like the whole time. We're talking about Lucio. And Jamie's like, all right, now that I'm finally done with whatever he's done with, I can finally donate to Patreon for for Velen's Chosen. I was like, oh, that's cool. I know you've been talking to me about it for a while. That's really neat. Thanks for doing that. And he's like, yep, I'm going to go to bed, so I'll see you tomorrow. I was like, okay, see you later, Jamie. And then Eve texts me, like, in our line chat, and he's like, $50? What?
Yep, that was pretty much it. Exclamation point, exclamation point.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're making t-shirts now?
I think that's what it means.
It does.
Nice.
We are at the milestone.
So, I hope he likes the new Velen's Chosen icon.
Darn it, Jamie. I have a crap ton of work now because of you.
That's the right problem to have.
Yeah,
every single
absolutely.
one of those dollars is going back into making this show even better. So you guys have been asking for shirts for a while. We're finally going to get it.
So we're gonna go to Spreadshirt, and I'll set up some stuff for y'all to purchase. But let me just run through like what Jamie's getting with this status, because it seems ridiculous to donate this. He's a VIP, which means anytime we make merch, he gets it. Okay, so like he doesn't pay for
Not
it.
too shabby.
He just gets the merch. So I'll have to figure out how I'm going to deal with this, because I said once we make merch initially, we're going to make a bunch of it. So I don't want to like give him like $1,000 worth of t-shirts that are all different, and even girls' shirts. So
no,
we'll have to see how we want to do that. But
maybe he's got a lady friend who he wants to, you know, spoil.
Yeah, we'll cut him some slack and give him a deal. We'll figure it out. So he gets producer status. So Jamie is now an official partner of Velen's Chosen as a VIP of Exodar. And Eve and I will contact you about a custom t-shirt that we'll personalize with her artwork. So she gets to whip out her design swag and make you something nice. And then everything else that is a previous reward. So he's getting sound bites that Watchman makes, which we have a new outro today, so stay tuned to the very end.
Super exciting. Awesome.
We just finished rebranding. So this new stream on the bottom corner here. Got a new brand, new gradients that will make your eyes be pleased for eternity. I don't know what else to say. He has early access to our show notes. We also will schedule him on the show as a guest at least annually. So we'll work out a schedule with Jamie to get him on the show, hopefully before I leave for Japan, because we haven't had a guest on the show in quite a while.
That's true. We've been rocking it.
Yep, school. That's Patreon. And then, Eve, why don't you go ahead and let the thanks continue to flow for our other patron supporters that we have.
All right. To Crovan B, Ricardo C, John H, Pratop N, Gabriel Z, Garrett S, and Jeffrey W. We continue to thank you. Week after
because
week.
you continue to make the show better. So
thank you for giving us value for value.
So without further ado, let's actually get into the show. Let's talk about let's talk about some discount decks.
What a contraption!
Isn't she scrumptious? She's my revolutionary, non-pollutionary mechanical wonder.
All right, Andrew.
Wait a minute. We didn't even talk about Brawl.
We'll get there. We're going to do discount decks and then we'll do Brawl.
Well, I was all excited.
Now we have to talk about Zoo. What a bunch.
Here's a nobody knows this fact. Every time I make a Zoo deck in game, I always replace the O's, the letter O's, with zeros because that's what I do. So
because Forbidden Ritual is a
I just
thing.
felt like you guys needed to know that. I don't know why. So
now we have insight into
that's your win condition.
That is your win condition. No. There are tons of zoos on the ladder right now. It's extremely effective. The deck has not changed a lot from its previous stuff, and I know we've talked about it, so we probably won't talk in depth about gameplay because honestly the gameplay hasn't changed, save for some interesting combos. But we've got a discount deck here that is one that has been going around a lot. Really the only additions have been Darkshire Councilman, which is apparently the new Undertaker. The Spawn of N'Zoth is actually really effective because when it dies, all of your minions get +1/+1, so you can get some insane value out of that. And
Forbidden Ritual?
And the Possessed Villager. Yeah, the Forbidden Ritual and Possessed Villager. And those have filled up slots. I've gone up against Zoo, and he plays a Possessed Villager on turn 1, and it actually locks me out of any kind of play. So that's really sad that a 1/1 has that much power. But
you can follow it up with some insane Abusive Sergeant plays.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's still very cerebral, the way that you play this, because there's so many very low-cost cards in Zoo. Which ones you put out on what turn, in what order, and how you utilize them is really important. You can't just go, oh, I've got a 2-mana card, I put it down on turn 2. Because
it's like 1-drop priorities, right? Like what the priority is for turn 1, the priority for turn 2, what are you trying to accomplish, and then what the board state is.
Yeah.
It's very mechanically demanding.
And something else you have to do is you have to look at your hand and really plan out the next few turns as best as you can. So even on your turn 1, let's say you're going first, you've got 3 cards in your hand. Hopefully you've got a 1-drop. Obviously you're going to play that. Hopefully you got a 2-drop. You play that next turn. And hopefully you've got a 1-drop that you can tap and play that as well. But no matter what it is, you should always be looking at your hand and thinking, if nothing changes, if I don't draw anything new, which you will, obviously, what's my plan of attack over the next 2 to 3 turns? And then use your hand that way.
So what's the most difficult thing about the deck? Let's start there.
For me, it was pulling the trigger on Darkshire Councilman, because I always wanted to get really good value for him. So when to put him down and what to put him behind and things like that. Zoo beat me a lot on ladder, but then when I tried to pilot it myself, I kind of had indifferent success.
Yeah, I think that it plays slightly differently. As far as board positioning is concerned, it's still like the same. Like if something generates something, that always goes on the right. If something is a death rattle, you put the death rattles on the left, and then that way you can play around with a Dark Iron Dwarf if you run that instead of a Gormok because you're on a budget, or if you're playing your double Dire Wolves, you have to place them properly in positions. Especially with Forbidden Ritual.
Where to put down Defender of Argus. When to use Power Overwhelming. I think it's a little harder to pilot than Old Zoo. Because Old Zoo was like, flood the board, win. And now this is just a little bit more. You really want to place your cards properly.
The key is that you want to be able to trade your little puny 1/1s into bigger minions. So even if you're up against an aggro shaman, you can usually do pretty well because you can put down a possessed villager, trade it into a tunnel trog with an abusive sergeant, and then, power overwhelming that token into their totem golem, and then you're just getting nutso value out of that while you continue to build your board.
I think that the hardest thing for me was twofold. It was knowing the mulligan, because in order to mulligan properly, you have to know which 1-drops you're looking for and which cards are appropriate to keep, even if you're trying to curve out like 1, 2, 3, or if it's better to hold a 1-2-1 or a 1-2-2, depending on the matchup. So a lot of times the mulligan isn't, or I will say this is like the mulligan is not straightforward unless you know your matchups. I think that that's really conducive to piling the deck even better, is knowing how to start out of the gate, because your most difficult turns as Zoo are usually turn 1 through 4, and then the rest of it kind of just is trade and then switch the gears to I'm done trading unless there's a taunt, and then I'm just doming them. So I think that those are some of the things for me. And then one extra note that doesn't have to do with difficulty, but I have the list over here on those for you watching video, but the list that we've linked here on the show has 2 Forbidden Rituals, 2 Flame Imps, 1 Mortal Coil, 2 Possessed Villagers, 2 Power Overwhelmings, 1 Soulfire, 2 Voidwalker, 2 Peddler, 2 Darkshire Councilman, 2 Imp Gang Boss, and then on the neutrals it runs Double Abusive Sergeant, 1 Crazed Alchemist, 2 Dire Wolf Alphas, 2 Knife Jugglers, 2 Defenders of Argus, Gormok the Impaler, Leroy Jenkins, and 1 Sea Giant. So this was a tournament deck that Chalky won with.
Okay.
So he used this at DreamHack to win. So Andrew, Andrew and Eve, I'm kind of interested to see like what your reactions are to some of the one of. So one of Mortal Coil, one of Soulfire, and then the Crazed Alchemist is, and then
Crazed Alchemist is really out there. Like I haven't seen that at all.
Well, it's an anti-Doomsayer and it's an anti-Totem, and so those are like
validated Doomsayer.
kills.
If somebody happens to whip that sucker out, it's dead too.
I still have not seen that card at all. Come on.
Strifecrow was running it in his Pirate Warrior,
and I'm sure it was nice for never. But
it was doing work for him when I was watching him.
Yeah, There are a few different variations. You got to figure out what works well for you. You can spend very little time on Hearthstone looking through zoo lists and find a bunch of different stuff. Mortal Coil's weird for a zoo. I don't like that. But I can understand Soulfire for extra burst, and Crazed Alchemist is. I'd rather run Dark Peddler all day long instead of a Crazed Alchemist. To me, that is a tournament card where you can
attacking against Freeze Mage,
or something like that, where you've got a counter, a hard counter to some certain decks. But if you're using those decks to ladder, I mean, it's not like a dead card, but there are better ones I think that you can run than that.
Eve, any other comments or reactions to some of those cards?
I don't see Doomguard on your list here, which is odd to me.
That was the list that Ant was running. He did not run Gormok or Leroy, or maybe even not even the Sea Giants, I think, and he would just run two Doom Call, or not Doom.
Yeah, that's kind of
Doom
more
guards.
budget friendly.
Right.
Also, instead of the Sea Giants, if you don't have the epics, you could try and use the Reliquary Seekers.
Mm-hmm.
That might work for you. In my list, I also have Bran Bronzebeard.
That's another good inclusion, yeah.
And I think everything else in mine is the same other than that.
Okay.
Oh, no. Bilefin Tidehunter.
Tidehunter. That's another card that I've been seeing. Gives you 2 charges on your Councilman for 2 mana. Gives you a taunt.
And Knife Juggler is just as effective. I mean, it didn't really get nerfed.
It's a little easier to remove, but still.
Obviously, the dream is getting Knife Juggler and Councilman on board. Or turn 2 Knife Juggler, turn 3 Councilman, and then turn 4 Ritual. I mean, that's just absolutely stupid. So, yeah. So use it, abuse it, and lose it, because I'm sick of you, Zoo. Get behind me, foul demon.
I will say another thing about the Crazed Alchemist, that I had played it on ladder, and I've been playing only this list, and it is doing work. Crazed Alchemist, every time I've played it, has won me the game. And it's been against Hunters. You flip a Carrion Grub on turn 3 to a 5/2, and then I've been able to trade a 1-drop or a 2-drop into a 5/2 instead of the 2/5 or 2/4, whatever it is. And then I've also killed a lot of Doomsayers with this. I've been able to improve my mirror match with the Zoo, because you can flip a Void Walker, or I can flip a Bran Bronzebeard that has just received a buff with the Defender of Argus. I can flip his attack and health and deal more damage to kill it faster. If you can flip a Void Walker to a 3/1, and then you can throw a coil out, whether you got it from your deck or you got it from your Dark Peddler, it's really good. So lots of versatility.
Especially if you're seeing lots of Freeze Mage on ladder, which is still very strong.
Yep. And I even saw Firebat running a similar list, but he runs double Soulfire, which is super good, because it gives you that extra burn. So I think we can move on to our other list, unless you guys have any other additional comments.
The only thing I was going to say is, when I've seen this played, if you do have Leroy Jenkins, it is a very good legendary for this deck. Leroy Jenkins plus double power overwhelming can be a very quick end to a game.
Mm-hmm. And Gormok has gotten me lethal a few times, basically by removing a taunt sometimes too. So they do have their uses, but don't forget about Dark Iron Dwarf. It does work.
If you are a heavy Zoo player, then those are good legendaries to craft, because they're super effective, and Leroy especially won't be cycled out. But in case you are missing those, or missing the Sea Giants, we've got some other replacements for you in the show notes. But really, you can just fill out all the 1-ofs with 2-ofs. It doesn't really matter, and a Dark Iron Dwarf's always going to be really effective to trade up and stuff like that. So you can look off of those other lists. Maybe you want to run a Soulfire, maybe you want to run a
2 Alchemists for goofy
2 Alchemists, sure, go for it.
Flip it twice.
Yeah, let's go on to the second list we got.
All right, the second list we got, I'll just read it off so that my co-hosts can see it, because they actually can't view this deck list right now. It's on Terrence M's Twitter. This is a copy and pasted list from what he ran to get second place in DreamHack. and is also really effective on ladder. This is basically a ladder deck that they brought to a tournament and still steamrolls. So it's Aggro Shaman, more of the refined version, and it has 2 lightning bolts, 2 rock biters, 2 abusive sergeants, 2 argent squires, 2 tunnel trogs, Sir Finley Murgleton, double ancestral knowledge, 2 eternal sentinels, 2 flame jugglers, 1 fire or flame tongue totem, 2 totem golems, 2 feral spirits, 2 lava bursts, 2 argent horse rider, 2 flame wreathed faceless, and 2 doom hammers. The only variation I saw with this one and Ant, who also placed top 8, was that he swapped the internal sentinels with lava shocks in order to unlock the crystals with a spell as opposed to a minion. And then there's another list that ran one of both. I think the other variation with the list was some list also cut 1 eternal sentinel and 1 ancestral knowledge for a earth shock and a 2nd flame tongue totem. So those are pretty much really tight-knit lists for aggro. Have you guys played this much? I've played it a little bit to get out of the dumpster ranks. Went on like a 4 or 5 game win streak with it, but pretty good.
I haven't touched Aggro Shaman yet. I tried the mid-rangey one that has like Hex in it and
Master of Evolution.
Master of Evolution, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And Thing from Below.
Yep, that's a really good list. There's a lot of people in EU. I was actually looking with Andrew on Hearthpwn this morning before we got into our full call. But they have, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different mid-range shaman lists for the EU preliminaries this weekend open.
Stupid, man.
And they are all different.
You know, a card that I've actually been seeing up at like rank 13 and 12? Primal Fusion.
Yeah. 6-0 runs
Some
2 copies of it.
One of, yeah.
Huh.
And then a lot of the
That's
other
the
players
card
are playing
that's
1.
give a minion +1/+1 for each of your totems.
Yep.
For 1 mana.
It
Like
lets you trade
sometimes
up.
they just tap to give themselves a totem and then buff up a totem that they have.
It's pretty easy to get a +2/+2 out of it, though.
Right.
And in the most insane circumstance, it's almost like a second version of Bloodlust for 1 mana.
Or a
where you
dire
just get to
wolf.
buff permanently one guy. But yeah, I mean, Aggro Shaman is at the top of Tempo Storm's meta snapshot, and it's for a reason, because if your opponent doesn't have the answers for these things, then they're just completely dead. There's not a lot of variation, you're right, Rob, with the list. You'll find a few different ones. I was looking at Kalento's that he's going to use in these EU prelims.
Okay.
He runs a copy of Earthshock, and that's kind of the only difference.
Did he have an elemental destruction back in his list, or did he take it out again?
No, he took that out.
Okay.
I mean, this is a really tight-knit list. So if you've got those Eternal Sentinels, you can run them. If you don't, go ahead and throw in some Lava Shocks, and those will do work as well.
Gotcha.
But
I know
this list is going to be effective for a while, probably.
Yeah, I know Eloise had an Earthshock and an Elemental Destruction in her version, but I think she only made top 16, or she didn't even make top 16 at DreamHack with her list, but she was casted, so it was really cool.
I've also seen Thunder Bluff variant, or
Valiant.
Valiant.
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of mid-range lists, though.
Yeah, that's
Those
true.
aren't aggro.
Yeah, so if you guys
That
are
is
seeing totem-centric things, those are non-aggro shamans, so you can plan accordingly. So Eve brought up a good point there. Like, we want to identify properly your matchup. You got to be looking for those cards, and if you're not seeing them, then it's not aggro.
How exciting is it, though, that we're actually seeing more than aggro shaman on the ladder? Because those mid-range lists are actually extremely effective right now.
I'm seeing a couple different kinds. There's the evolution one, the totem one, which runs like bloodlust and things to buff your totems up, and then straight up aggro. So that's at least 3 different kinds.
Yeah.
And the control shaman isn't as bad as it used to be, which is like tier 4. I would say it's, still able to compete pretty well with some of the other tier 2, tier 3 lists. I feel like the range from tier 1 to tier anything is really big as far as the gap from what Tempo Storm's talking. And then anything from like tier 2 to tier 4, those are really close and pretty matchup dependent on who can win a lot of the times. Aside from Freeze Mage, which is always a freaking outlier. So that deck is ridiculous.
Always got to bring it back to Freeze Mage, don't we?
Yeah. So Eve, how does this look? This is your bread and butter last couple seasons before Standard hit, right?
Yes.
There isn't a whole lot of Standard cards that...
Flame Reefed.
Yeah, there's new cards versus old cards, right?
Yeah, like that was a really strong addition, and also just more options to unlock your mana crystals.
With the Eternal Sentinels?
Yes.
Okay.
So those are super strong. But yeah, other than that, it just kind of made Aggro Shaman better, and it was already really good.
So
I will say I have been playing a lot of Priest, though.
Okay.
And Priest has a lot of tools to stop Aggro Shaman. I have a pretty good win rate against them on my Dragon Priest.
Yeah, I think that's why people are bringing Priest to tournaments, is so that they're like either a full lineup of I'm banning Shaman or I'm going to bring Priest, and then sometimes I'm going to ban Shaman, but most of the time I'm going to ban Rogue.
Yeah, they have a lot of really cheap ways to get rid of their minions once they start steamrolling and get big. As soon as they pass that 5 attack mark, it's just like gone. So, and then sometimes they have locked up mana crystals after playing something like that. So
sure,
they start to get behind. But yeah, it's, if you play it fast and aggressive and you don't lose that mindset, you really have to be ballsy and not trade and just like really force the other person to deal with your stuff instead of having the time to make a board of their own.
I mean, it doesn't run any legendaries. That's the best part of the list, right?
Yeah, it's just that epic Doomhammer is pretty much the really pricey.
If you don't have the Doomhammers yet, then you must have no interest in playing Aggro Shaman, because you need them. But the Eternal Sentinels you may not have gotten yet.
You can just run the Lava Shocks.
That totally makes sense. So Lava Shocks are fine for that. Yeah.
There was some discussion about the new hammer coming in and also
Twilight?
being viable. Yeah.
Nope.
No? You haven't
It's
seen it at
probably
all?
viable for the mid-range list, but not for this one.
Okay.
I got a copy from a pack and I tried it out, and it just it's clunky with
It's a control
the
weapon.
turns that it takes. It's still good, and you get good value out of it. I think that's the biggest thing, but it's slow.
Correct. It's more geared for
Rockfighter
control.
Doomhammer is just kind of still a really good win condition.
Yeah, exactly. 10
10
damage.
turn is kind of hard to argue or aggro against. Yeah.
All right, so let's take the list off the video here and go ahead into our news. All right, Tavern
So now we
Brawl.
get to talk about Brawl.
Tavern Brawl. What was it called?
Top
remember?
2? Was that what it was called? I'm gonna quickly look. Are you
Yep.
pulling it up?
Top 2. You're right.
Top
Yeah.
2. Okay. All right, so
Yeah.
Andrew, what is the Tavern Brawl essentially in a nutshell? And then Eve can talk about.
You got to create your deck out of just 2 cards. So you get to choose 2 different cards for your class or neutral or whatever, and it's going to put 15 copies of each into your deck. So everybody's trying to think of just 2 cards that combo really well, that you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to get those out of it. And there's just an insane amount of creativity that people have come up with. And I mentioned
fun.
before the show, we could probably talk about this Tavern Brawl
For
all
the rest of the show.
It's one of the most interesting ones that we've had, because just 2 cards, there's so many combos that can happen that actually create broken situations. It's just fun. So
I think people's
do you think,
minds
Eve?
were just like expanded, and I saw so many people trying so
What was
many
the first
cool-
thing you tried though? That's what I'm curious about. I was like, what's the first thing that came to mind? It's like, oh,
For
I'm gonna do
me,
that.
I've mentioned this before, but Rogue is my least leveled one, so I just committed every Tavern Brawl I'm going to do Rogue. So I was thinking what Rogue cards would work. So I got Sinister Strike and Eviscerate. And so I was just going to go completely face with those. And
Nice.
on turn 2, my opponent conceded. So that was my extent of playing Tavern Brawl.
Nice. Eve, what about you? What is the first thing you jumped into?
A priest, actually. I tried, what is it? Forbidden Ritual?
Oh, that's interesting. You just play that every turn?
Forbidden Shaping, thank you. Just to cast it on every turn and to have something pop out for the mana that you were spending.
Okay.
And then I just threw in Shadow Word Death in order to get rid of whatever they had.
Oh, okay. I was thinking you just play like Flash Heal and Embrace the Shadow.
Tried that too. Still too slow. Like I kind of tweaked it for a while to try and find something that would work with what I wanted to do, but against everything that was out there that other people were using was just way too slow.
The first thing that came to my mind was Druid, and I jumped in and played the Mill. I was like, dude, Naturalize would be busted.
Mill. Oh my gosh.
So Naturalize and Oracle got me a good 5 wins, and it was like, this is the first Tavern Brawl where I actually played more than twice, like after I won.
That was what my opponent had when I was playing the Eviscerate Sinister Strike. I think they realized on turn 2, I can't mill him because he's literally getting completely rid of his hand.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and you're just giving them resources. But like the cool thing was, if you play Mill against Mill, which is like the second game I played, it was a Mill mirror match with Druid. I won, and it was because I planned ahead. Basically, if your opponent plays the Oracle first, they lose.
Really? And why is that?
Because you're able to play Naturalize first.
Yeah.
Yep, and so all you do is you Naturalize every time they play one, and then when you play one, you don't play one unless you can Naturalize yours. So your opponent will always draw 4 when you draw 2. And he lost. And then I also repeatedly skipped his turn when he started, like, milling me. I started just like adding my armor and using my hero power. So it was really interesting, like the strategy kind of behind the mirror match. I was like, man, this is already developing.
That's really cool.
So what are some other fun stuff that you saw? Like, obviously not stuff that, we're not going to talk everything, but just some of the cool stuff that we like.
Okay, crazy game story.
Okay, go for it.
The most infuriating one I think out there, if you would agree with me, is the Mage Ice Block Fireball.
Oh man,
Freeze Mage.
Oh, rage-inducing.
It's pretty nuts.
So
you can't win.
You never lose.
You can. So crazy game story. I tried the Mech Warper Evolve.
Okay.
So got all my Mech Warpers out on the board, filled the board with them, and evolved them every turn, and ended up getting a Ragnaros Light Lord.
Whoa.
And after that, did not evolve anymore, and Ragnaros healed me every turn.
Wow.
And they just eventually ran out of ice blocks.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to do it.
Hard counter right there.
Super lucky to get Ragnaros, and I'm sure the mage on the other side was very frustrated.
I think the next game that I did was the Mana Worm and the Arcane Missiles. Just dumping your hand every turn.
Yes.
Magic missiles.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
It's really strong.
I did watch some Twitch. I watched Crip play some Tavern Brawl, and one of his opponents played Kezan Mystic. It was Kezan Mystic, and what was the other card they had? But I assume it was to
That's crazy.
Counter that. But it was funny because he was running a Druid list with Innervate and Deathwing Dragonlord, and the entire time he's just sitting back. He's not saying a single thing. He's just smiling. That insane Crip grin on his face. And so you'd Innervate out one Deathwing Dragonlord, and then they would have to kill it, and then you'd have 6 Deathwing Dragonlords on the board, and there's no coming back from that.
I did something just like that yesterday, and I posted a link to my Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw this. I think Eve commented on it, and Hearthlytics was like, what card did you play? They didn't even know what card was on the board. But I played Yasharaj Rage Unbound and Innervate. So you mulligan your whole hand until you have full Innervates. And then if you go second on turn 1, you play Yasharaj, and then you have 20/20 power on turn 1.
Not bad.
And I still beat a Mill Rogue.
Do we say broken? Is that the word for it? Is that
Let's just say those are the fastest games you'll ever play.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is the best way to grind gold. Like, you know how they have the gold cap? Every 3 wins you win with the class, you get 10 gold up to a cap of 100. I mean, you can do that real fast with that deck.
I didn't even know there was a cap.
I saw the one that was like Mind Blast and Flash Heal or something like that. Just to, those burn decks seem to be
Works too.
Or Thalnos, yeah, there you go. So
I got
there's
to
a
the
lot of
point-
creativity.
I got to the point where when I was going up against people, if I dropped a Mech Warper, they just conceded.
That's funny. Because the Metal Tooth
like, no,
Leaper Mech
just
Warper
don't
is pretty
wanna play
nuts
you.
too, and
Yeah.
Golly.
oh man. I think the funniest
Robots are
one
fun,
that
though.
I saw was one that I saw on Moz play and lost because it was, I think, the Ice Block Fireball one, but it was Target Dummy Bolster.
Oh.
That was awesome. That's so
That's
cool.
kinda-
It's just like
It's
you
so
mulligan
funny.
your whole hand for target dummies and then draw a bolster and you just dump them. And then you get a
This is
bunch
when
of
Tavern Brawl
2/4s.
is at its best. When it brings out these cards that are unplayable under any other circumstances, but are actually broken in
Yep,
this
and
one.
then there's
So
Bilefin Tidehunter and Evolve.
Evolve, yep, I saw that one. There was what's that mech card that gives all of your minions Wind Fury and Taunt and Divine Shield?
Oh, and Hanso?
Mechanical
That
Mech
sounds
Warper.
awesome.
That's what got played against me. That was
Did you guys see the
great.
Memoron deck that was running around today?
no.
It's just another Mech Warper combo. You play Mech Warper into Memoron, and then you get Memoron and you hit them for 12.
That's insane.
It's just...
Oh,
Stupid.
I was so frustrated because I was playing Mech Warper with the Gorilla Bot, and you get to discover a mech, and I discovered the one that makes the head of what is it? The head
Yeah,
of
that's Memoron.
oh, that's what you were talking about, Memoron. For some reason I was thinking it was called something else. When you said Memoron, I was thinking the legendary from the Shaman that gives you all of the
Neptulon?
Murlocs. Neptulon. I got those two mixed up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think we can just all agree that we want more of this. You know, more of this kind of.
I want this in the
creativity,
next
'cause I'd be-
adventure for every boss.
Oh, there you go. I know that they've said that their randomonium with a completely randomized deck list is always the most played, but I'm going to be really surprised if this one doesn't
This is
overshadow
takes the
that.
cake for me.
Not only because the games are shorter, but because it's just so much fun to try out different stuff and see what other people are creating. So I'd be really surprised if this doesn't rise to the top, and we'll probably see this one again and some other ones that are based off it. So
Yep.
good,
Especially
good
if you
work,
can pull off
Blizzard.
Yogg-Saron stuff with Innervate too is pretty funny.
Well, and it's nice
Oh, I
that
didn't
one
get
deck
that
didn't really kind of rise to the top and just be like all you saw played against you.
Right. They're just all really powerful and really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we mentioned DreamHack a little bit. Did you guys we're not gonna cover the whole thing. We're just gonna mention it. But like, did you guys watch anything that noted that you were like, dude, this is really cool?
No, I just followed it on Twitter, basically what people were posting and saying about it, and kept tabs on it that way. I didn't have time to watch any of the games, unfortunately.
Okay, Andrew.
Nope. I'm too busy trying to get up to rank 5.
Yeah.
Stupid
Nice.
ladder.
Nice.
I hate all the rank 1 decks. All
Where
of
are
them.
you right now?
I just got to 8 this morning, so
Wow.
that's as high as
Congratulations.
I've been this morning.
Nice. I'm still sitting at 17 or 16.
Yeah.
I
Not
keep
playing
making
much.
it to 12 and then falling back down to 13. So I'm at 12, 13 right now, just kind of going
Okay.
back and forth.
I want to make the
It's just
push
so
the
hard
next
to be
couple days
consistent.
after we do these T-shirt things. I'm gonna
But
hopefully just jump on there.
watching those DreamHack matches are a great way to kind of if you're not having fun on the ladder, to go and see what the pros are doing and stuff. And there were some great matches from what I heard, and people who
Yeah.
have really figured out those top tier decks, the N'Zoth Paladin, the Miracle Rogue, stuff like that. If you're not sure how to play those decks, and like Miracle Rogue's a great example where I still don't quite know how to play it, and yet I cannot win against it.
Yeah.
Right now, it's nuts.
It's
like people
insane.
get Edmund Bank Leaf and Faceless manipulate him and cold blood him, and I'm just raging.
Leroy.
And then I get Ragnarok.
We don't have Lotheb anymore. I think Lotheb would be a hard counter to Rogue.
It's true. It's true.
Breeze
And we
Mage
just
beats
don't
Miracle
have-
too.
Remember that
Freeze
card?
Mage? Okay.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like whenever I play against it, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm playing my best cards every turn. Like I can even get a God draw for my deck, and it still just doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
They still beat me.
Important
and I just
to
don't
drop-
even know what to do to throw a spanner in their works, if you know what I'm saying.
Rob, did you get to watch DreamHack at all, though?
I watched a lot of the matches for this, even though I was at my in-laws, because my father-in-law was really sick. So we just kind of had lunch, and I was trying to describe like what was going on, and he was really interested in it. But I would say like the reason I brought up DreamHack is because 2 of the decks we featured were probably the most played in DreamHack, besides Miracle and N'Zoth Paladin, and Chalky won his final game that he played, so there's still no spoilers. The final game that Chalky played on stream was with a zoo list, and that was not only a really good game to watch, but he picked a Stone Tusk boar that won him the game, which was really nuts. So it was really cool, and what's that?
Did he power overwhelming it?
He had it with a direwolf, and it just continually like got him the game or something. And I won a game last night because I did a risky pick by picking up a Dragonhawk, and then I put a PO on it and next to a direwolf, and it did like 12 damage in a turn. Wow. Young Dragonhawk, like that 1-drop with Wind Fury. It was just stupid. But Terrence M was also another featured player that nobody really knows a lot about, but has been playing for a long time. And he played a lot of Patron Warrior, and also played the Shaman list that we talked about today that's really close to that. And he did really well at the tournament with his Shaman when it wasn't banned. So if you want to go check out some more zoo plays, I would also suggest looking at Ant. He played the more budget-friendly one with the 2 Doom Guards in it that Eve mentioned. So I would go check out the VODs for that and DreamHack and try to find what decks people are playing, and then go watch those to see what decisions they're making as opposed to what deck decisions they made for their deck building. Obviously, deck building is a big aspect, but piloting the deck is the second, like, most important. So DreamHack's a great way to go and kind of figure out what people did or how they did with their decks, and why they did better than another person who brought one is usually not just how they piloted, but also the matchups and also the deck building decisions. Mm-hmm. That being said, there's a link in the show notes where you can go to Hearthstone and you can find all the DreamHack lists. And then as of right now, EU preliminaries, Hearthstone has collected all of the lists, most of the lists that are going to the EU preliminaries tonight and tomorrow and Sunday, and collected a ton of tournament decks that you can go and check out. There's a lot of mid-range Shaman and Aggro Shaman on there, so you can go check a bunch of variants there. We don't have any emails this week, aside from our hype train on Patreon. So I'm going to add Jamie here before I forget to the show notes. I think I misspelled his name, but we'll go back and do that. But we do have an iTunes review. Is that correct, Eve?
Yes. Bad Year Blimp.
Finally Garrett. You're having a better year.
From the U.S. As a longtime Hearthstone fan, I started listening to Velen's Chosen on day one, and it quickly became one of my can't-miss podcasts. Rob, Andrew, and Eve do a great job guiding new players through the game, budget players to victory, and keeping us informed and up-to-date on all things Hearthstone. They are entertaining, insightful, and I look forward to each new episode. Keep them coming. Thank you, Bad Year Blimp. We played with him for a long time when we went to the meetups, and he's a really great guy. He's
also one of our Patreons, our patrons, and Garrett stomps me into the ground every time we play Rocket League. So he is a monster at that game.
Which, by the way, I just got. So I've got to learn that game, like for real.
They have a hoops game mode right now. You're like,
uh-oh.
It's really crazy. They've added a lot of really cool features to the game, and I haven't played in a while, so. Maybe all right, Andrew, why don't we go to you and have you tell our wonderful listeners how they can stay involved with the show.
Wouldn't you like to know how you could stay involved? Well, guess what?
Evolved, in fact.
I will tell you. Yes. You can hang out with us in Discord. Link to that in the show notes. Chat with us on Twitter, Velen's Podcast. You can play Hearthstone with us. We'll give you the battle nets, tags, and stuff. You can request a card collection coach, which I actually did this morning with Vincent. He had just gotten back from a holiday and was basically fresh into Whispers pretty much and wasn't sure what to craft. So I we talked through what he likes to play and what he has, and we came up with a couple options. So
Very
happy
cool.
to do that. And if you would like any kind of crafting advice, we'd be happy to help you with that. You can also join the Hearthstone Facebook group, which is called The Inn, to find some other peeps who are having fun with the game and being ridiculous, and that's always fun too. So you can find all of that stuff at our website, which is valenschosen.com. About as simple as you could possibly imagine right there. Yeah.
You can also please find all of the show notes. Like if you're looking for more detailed descriptions, go to the website that will link you to the show notes on the Google Drive. You can check out those. And last, please send us emails. I think next week I would really like to do a more email-heavy show if you guys want. Obviously, that's completely dependent on the listeners, so please send in some emails anytime. And this email is not just like questions. This can be anything from casual crazy game stories to, hey, love the show, I'm trying to tweak this deck, what do you think? This type of stuff. We do love those emails.
I think we're probably getting pretty close to an episode where we go over the epics and legendaries and rares and
Crafting
talk
guides
about
and all that.
crafting guides. Yeah, what's really good and
yeah,
keep
it's
an eye out
just
for.
the meta is so fast and changing, and the decks are swinging, and like we don't want to recommend anything just yet, but let's just say if we were
getting
hyped about
closer.
Dragon Lord
We're
last
getting
week, we
closer.
might not be this
Yeah.
week. So
Yeah.
all right.
Good point.
Special thanks again to the one, the only Watchman HS Legend for making our sound bites at the intro and the outro. If you want to become a $5 patron, you will get all of the sound bites as we get them from Watchman. We'll send them to you. And now we're going to spend another 2 minutes to just let you know where you can find us. So let's start with Andrew this week. Andrew, where can people find you? I'm
on Twitter, Andrew is Living, and YouTube, BinacaFreak, and BattleNets, Andrew is live number 1973, and you can watch me play and get frustrated against N'Zoth Paladin, which is the bane of my existence. I would rather queue up against Aggro Shaman all day long rather than that stupid, you can't play anything, you've got an 8/8, I'm going to make it a 1/8 and then stampeding Kodo it like it's nothing and then N'Zoth you and bring back everything that'll destroy you. Man! I don't like that deck. Sorry.
Not only are they running two of their humility, like when has that card ever been played? Two
So that was
humilities.
before Nax was Control Paladin. They ran two of them.
Oh my gosh, it's just unreal. But it's effective. I need to learn how to play it better because it's one of those decks that I get beaten by every time. But every time I try to play it, guess what happens?
You lose.
I lose like turn one. So I got to learn it because I know I can do better than that.
All right.
If you have silence in your own deck, you can silence your creature and get them back to their former stats.
Oh, that's what I was missing, obviously, right?
Nobody's playing silence right now
your
except
own.
for
There is no
Reno.
silence.
Reno lists are the only ones I've seen that are running silence right now.
Yeah.
I'm considering going back to Control Priest because I saw a couple cool Control Priest lists, and I'm just gonna like take out one card for the 0 mana cost silence and see how it does because I feel like it'd be really good right now.
You know something else I haven't seen that I just realized? No big game hunter.
Yeah, there's not very many of them.
Probably the only list also.
Yeah,
that runs it.
Druid. I think I've seen a few Druids run it too because they just have no way to interact with big minions a lot of the times.
Other than Mulch, which meh.
Garbage card. Yeah.
They just drop their own huge minions and then trade.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, Eve, where can people find you at?
On Twitter at Finnovar, FHINNOVARR. On Twitch as Evemartyn. If you want my battlelet, send me a message. And if you're not an egg, I may give it to you. I'm also playing Destiny quite a lot on PlayStation 4. And when it comes out on, what is it, the 20th?
24th.
I'll be playing Overwatch because I got the pre-order.
We have 11 days to Overwatch, folks.
Hey, after all the hype you gave it, Rob, like I didn't think it could live up to it, but holy cow was I wrong. Like that game is so fun. If you haven't at least watched other people play it, you're missing out.
Yeah.
I'm predicting right now it's going to break records when it comes out.
I will say this because I said this on the Omnic Lab, but during open beta test weekend, that game had 9.7 million people playing it.
That's crazy.
Crazy. I thought it was higher than
9.7
that.
million people. That was
it was
just
like 10
open
something.
beta weekend.
Oh, okay.
Or open beta week, I'm sorry. So between the 5th and the 9th. So that was like 4 days of games. 9.7 million people. So that being said, please go check out my Omnic Lab podcast. Hint, hint. Go check that out. We just finished our Basics Heroes series. So we just finished up with supports, and that should also go up by the end of the day, as well as this podcast on Friday the 13th. Oh, that's convenient. And then you can find me on Twitter at NotRob. You can also find me on Facebook at NotRobMedia. That's my portfolio. You can check us out on Twitch at NotRobMay. Sometimes I'll stream some of my terrible games. Sorry, I played the wrong one. You can check out some of my horrible games there, and I guess we'll see you guys next week. Enjoy the new outro.
Keep on playing that Dragon Priest.
Have fun with the game. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
Adios.
I foresaw this. Did I miss it?
You think people are gonna wait that long to hear it?
If we let the show go long enough, they will.
That is
sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I'll just I'll let it play into the next one on my podcast list. So
that's true.
Oh man, I have to use the restroom so bad. I'm gonna stop recording. I drank like 2 gallons of water.
Stopping recording.